Start recording. Okay, I should be live on YouTube as well. So let's go ahead and begin. Mr. Jason, can you confirm that?
So yes, you are. You're live.
Okay, awesomeness. Thank you. I'm going to minimize that because I cannot look at both of them at the same time.
Yes, you're live on YouTube.
Thank you.
And the sound is good too.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I need to see the chat in the class. Mr. Jason will take over the YouTube one. Alrighty. Well, let's begin our class today. Greetings to those joining us on YouTube. We are going to be looking at the feast of Yom Teruah, also known as Rosh Hashanah. My concern is not the names. My concern is understanding what is going on here. There are some difficulties in the text that I want to point out, and then we would solve them and then see if we can get a depth into what we are doing when it comes to some of these feasts. So I'll start with a question. What do we do on Yom Teruah or on Rosh Hashanah? What do we do? What do you see people do? What have you read, heard, or what do you do on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Teruah? Typically. Any takers? What do we typically do?
Not quite clear of what to. Well, I haven't found any clear direction of what you do on this on Yom Teruah, because with the Babylonian customs that came out, you have it's a new year, but when you look at before that time, it wasn't celebrated as a new year. So I'm like in the middle. I'm stuck in the middle of which direction to go with it.
Awesome. Thank you for being honest. Very good. Anyone else? What have you seen being done? What have you done in the past? Or what do you do?
Well, that's all.
Madam Cynthia.
You blow the shofar. Yeah.
Blow the shofar, okay?
Yeah, you pray.
Pray, okay?
Yeah. I think for the past couple of years, I think I missed something. I missed the joyful part of it.
Okay.
I don't know how I missed it though. I just don't know how. It's like it's like something just didn't connect. And this year, when I was reading it again, just to refresh myself, I just kept seeing joyful everywhere. And I was like, how come I didn't see this before? And you did a thing about Hannah as well before, not being joyful.
Yes.
Remember, I don't know why I never connected it. I think as you think of it as judgment, and when he checks his sheep, and I come through, so you get a bit scared. Sorry, anyway, I see it like that. So I feel like that. It was more of like that sort of thing rather than actually, the joy part of it. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yes, it does. Yes.
So like I see that more joyful, and like hearing the shofar blowing, and like when you think about him being your king for the next year.
Okay.
It's part of the whole process, but there's also an element. I don't know if it's fear, but there's that. I don't want to use the word fear, but almost like a reverence kind of thing. Like,
okay.
Like what? Like if he checks me, am I going to be all right?
Gotcha.
Awesome. Have I done what I was supposed to be doing? And should I really just like hold out this year? Just
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Anything else that Cynthia hasn't said?
Rabbi?
Yes, Madam Drew.
Can somebody explain to me what does the apples and the honey have to do with anything? I keep seeing that on commercials and on TV.
Miss Drew, you're supposed to have it to say that you're gonna have a sweet year. It's like you have to eat honey and sweets, like delicacies that are sweet. It's like like an example of the year that you want to have. And you know, honey's sweet.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's supposed to represent sweetness.
So you know
So
what?
could we have cake?
Yeah, you can have cake.
Yeah, anything sweet.
Cake.
Say no more.
I made jollof rice, and I made and that's not sweet, but I made you can have cake, things that you like that are sweet, like have honey. You can have ice cream, things that are sweet. Like you're supposed to show like a sweet year.
A sweet
it's
year.
Basically like a little party of sweets, like you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's like.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'm loving this cake part. I love the cake part. Love the cake. Yay.
Madam Patricia, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I've seen the Yom Teruah being a time of blowing the trumpet,
Blowing the
a
trumpet.
time of shouting and praise, a time of repentance.
Okay. Awesome. Mr. Yao says, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. Help me out. Awesome. That's why we're here today. In the chat, I heard it's a festival of sweets. Now I understand why. Awesome.
There's another thing, brother, that I didn't say. It's a time for also worship, like singing songs and basically doing all the things that you like and all the things that you feel like that makes you happy. So singing songs, worship, all that jazz. You know what I mean? It's proper. By the way, Tracy Marsh, we can see you, by the way. We can see you. Hello. How are you?
Oh, you can see her on the webcam.
Rabbi.
Yes. Madam.
I know that. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I know that in past class you talked to us about the moeds and them being sometimes them being portals.
Yes.
And times when things, so I'm not gonna, like yesterday I was really rushing around to hurry up and get my groceries and everything before sundown yesterday.
Yeah.
And I kind of just got in my car and just had a conversation with Yah and asked for things, was thankful for things, and then after that I was kind of confused. I was like, should I go and meditate because there's a portal open? I don't want to miss out on something I could be getting, or somewhere I could be helping someone that's sick or something. So I am a bit confused about, what to do after. I know the shofar blowing, but outside of that, I kind of just hurried up and rushed home so that I could pray, and then I was kind of stumped.
Oh, Nicole, the other thing, Brother Basil, as well, that I want to, it's a portal, but it's also an opportunity for you to have your wish list, like things that you want to have in the year. And also, you like candles as well, because I like candles. So you have like a wish list of things that you like to come to, like, like when you go to the king and you're like, he's like, he runs things. It's not just like the king, like any old king. He's like the king of kings. So you can go to him and actually put your wish list towards it and pull down like for the year.
Gotcha.
It's like he's gonna set your budget for the year. Your budget, Okay.
It's funny that you say that because my daughter was laughing at me because we were, like I said, we're at the grocery store. We're trying to hurry up so we can get back home before sundown, so Shabbat start and everything. And my daughter was like laughing at me in the car because I started praying for like a lot of things, asking for a lot of things, giving thanks for a lot of things. But I was actually going down to like small details, and she started laughing at me because I was like, oh, okay, I want my locks to grow long. I want this to house. She was like, huh? Because I was asking for big things and small things, but I wasn't 100% sure if that was the right thing to do. It was just kind of like instinct. But I knew that from the past that there are portals that open, and I didn't want to miss out on that. So I just kind of like last night was like, but should I meditate? I wasn't sure.
No, you do. And the thing is, what you did was what I do. I do that. I do, when I said to you, I went for the small, the big, anything. I literally wrote it all down because I was like, I'm not going to miss nothing here. And also I wanted to be able to reflect on it the next year. So the things that I've written down, I want to save it and put it away and then review it. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome.
And see what's come about. Because sometimes you ask for things and when you don't write it down, you don't get an opportunity to have, and then that will be an opportunity for you to really thank the King of Kings, when he comes round again, it's his come at full time. Like to truly thank him, to truly say, you are an awesome God. Look what you have done. Look at this. And you can just sorry.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Awesome. No problem. Awesome. Thank you all for your contributions. I was expecting that. I was expecting confusion. I was expecting joy. I was expecting people in the middle. I was expecting not knowing what to do. It's understandable. If it's something that you haven't been doing for a while and it's now been introduced to you or you're now picking it up, you should have all these questions. And it's amazing. It's amazing. Now, you know what we do here. We go to the text and then see what the text has to say for itself. I promise I will not break anyone's heart today. Mr. Drew warned me. I'm joking, but let's go. Yom Teruah. Leviticus 23. I'm going to read from verses 23 and then we can start asking our questions. And Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, it shall be a Shabbat for you, a remembrance of Israel through the shofar blast, a holy occasion. I know majority of us don't have the shofar. So we listen to the shofar blast maybe on our computers or on our phones. No problem. What do we do on this feast? We are told that, according to the scripture on the screen, we blow the shofar, and then what happens? The text is quite silent then. All I am told is that is a remembrance of Israel through the shofar blast. But as Mr. Jason correctly said, it doesn't really say anything. It's quite mind-boggling. I read them like, okay, am I supposed to do something? When the shofar blasts, then what? So if you were sitting in your car after groceries and you're trying to figure out what next, well, the text is quite silent. Okay, it means that we have to do some digging. Not only is the text silent, there's a problem with the text here. We'll point that out shortly. We're supposed to blast the shofar. Let's look at a little background of the shofar. We know that Yah had spoken with Abraham, spoken with Isaac, spoken with Jacob and Moses. But for the first time, Yah is about to speak to the whole house of Israel. And in that communication, which Mr. Drew asked about before we went live, we see our first evidence for a shofar. We see it in Exodus 19. And Yah said to Moshe, Go to the people and prepare them today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their garments, and they shall be prepared for the 3rd day, For on the third day Yah will descend before the eyes of all the people upon Mount Sinai. And you shall set boundaries for the people around, saying, beware of ascending the mountain or touching its edge. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. No hand shall touch it, for he shall be stoned or cast down, whether man or beast. He shall not live. When the ram's horn sounds a long drawn-out blast, they may ascend the mountain. So now we are seeing the shofar. This is the first time it's showing up. So Moshe descended from the mountain to the people, and he prepared the people, and they washed their garments. He said to the people, be ready for 3 days. Do not go near a woman. It came to pass on the third day, when it was morning, that there were thunderclaps and lightning flashes, and a thick cloud was upon the mountain, and a very powerful blast of a shofar, and the entire nation that was in the camp shuddered. Moshe brought the people out towards Elohim from the camp, and they stood at the bottom of the mountain, and the entire Mount Sinai smoked, because Yah had descended upon it in fire and in smoke. And its smoke ascended like the smoke of a kiln, and the entire mountain quaked violently. Put that in your spirit. The entire mountain quaked violently. The sound of the shofar grew increasingly stronger. Moshe would speak, and Elohim will answer him with a voice. Someone said they had an earthquake yesterday in Cali. Interesting. We'll get there. So, 4.6, wow. It didn't get to Vegas, that's good. We hear the shofar. We see the shofar for the first time. What is it? The shofar is a horn, traditionally that of a ram or a goat. We know that Israel, our patriarchs, they've always been sheep or cattle farmers. So that would make it, that is the shofar, readily available. And they would have those in plenty. Israel was not the only people. We did not live in a vacuum. So we're not the only people to be using such instruments. Many people around the world use animal horns for a multitude of purposes. Some use it as a signal. Some use it for alarms. Many use it for battle calls or cries. Some for assemblies to assemble the people. Some use it during herding of animals, etc. There's so many uses of this instrument called the shofar. When it comes to war, we know that Abraham led a war party to rescue Lot. And there were many other occasions when it would seem that such an instrument would have been useful before the occasion on Mount Sinai, when the laws was given from Yah. But the text is quite silent about that. We have no earlier biblical reference to horns or trumpets of any kind until we get to the revelation at Sinai. This is our first instance of the shofar. Okay, let's build it up some more. We come to Numbers 10. And we have Yah commanding Moshe to make a pair of metal trumpets. Numbers 10. Let us read. Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, make for yourself 2 silver trumpets. You shall make them from a beaten form. They shall be used by you to summon the congregation and to announce the departure of the camps. When they blow on them, the entire congregation shall assemble to you at the entrance of the tent of meeting. If they blow one of them, the princes, the leaders of Israel's thousands, shall convene to you. When you blow a teruah, that is a series of short blasts, the camp which are encamped to the east shall travel. When you blow a second teruah, the camps encamped to the south shall travel. They shall blow a teruah for traveling. But when assembling the congregation, you shall blow a tekiah, that is a long blast, not a teruah. The descendants of Aaron, the priests, shall blow the trumpets. This shall be an eternal statute for your generations. If you go to war in your land against an adversary that oppresses you, you shall blow a teruah with the trumpets and be remembered before Yah your Elohim, and thus be saved from your enemies. On the days of your rejoicing, on your festivals, and on your new moon celebrations, you shall blow on the trumpets for your ascent offerings and your peace offerings, and it shall be a remembrance before your Elohim. I am Yah, your Elohim. Throughout this chapter that we've read, Numbers 10, Yah detailed very precisely to Moshe the process of manufacturing these trumpets. What does he tell him? The material should be silver, and they were to be raised from sheet metal by hammering rather than being cast. It says you shall make the trumpets from a beat form. So you have to hammer it, don't cast it. Number 2, they were to be for the priests to call the people to assemble, or assemblies. They were to signal the movement of the camps in the desert. They were for war and for festivals, the days of gladness. So these trumpets that we've seen were made of metal, silver to be specific, and they were made specifically for the priests to use. So right now, I'm smiling because I'm going to ask you a question. Right now, we know of the shofar and then the trumpet. The shofar is made from the ram or goat's horn, and we've seen that the trumpet is made from silver, that is metal. We see that the shofar is not a priestly horn, it was for everyone. So one of the most important aspects of the shofar, in contrast with the trumpet, is that it was not a priestly horn. It was for everyone, for any of the people, whether priests or anybody else. But the trumpets were specifically priestly horns. It was the shofar that has survived till now because it was for everyone. And we know that all the priestly instruments of the temple used by the Levites in all the ceremonies died out after the Romans destroyed the temple in 70. So we see two instruments here, the shofar and then the trumpet. We've been told when to blow the trumpets, who blows it, etc. With this background, let's come back to the instructions in Leviticus 23. We read previously, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, it shall be a Shabbat for you, a remembrance of Israel through the shofar blast, a holy occasion." I have a problem with this rendition of the text. It's a bit misleading. Why do I say that? This is what it should read. "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, it shall be a Shabbat for you, a remembrance of blowing of Teruah, a holy occasion." Do you see the difference between the two? Look at it carefully. There's a difference. What is the difference? I agree. There's a
Rabbi,
difference.
the second one is.
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
The
Jason.
second one is. Oh, I'm sorry. The second one is pointing to previous time.
Previous time. Can you explain further? I don't understand.
Okay, so like the first one says a remembrance of the shofar blast, a holy occasion.
Yes.
The second one says a remembrance of blowing of Teruah, a holy occasion.
Correct.
So this remembrance of blowing of Teruah must have happened previously.
Okay,
what
I
I'm
understand.
getting is
Okay, yes.
it has occurred before. This is something that you're remembering that has already been done.
Okay. I get what you're coming. The instruments. Let's focus on the instruments. What is different?
Rabbi.
Mr. Marvin. Mr. Marvin, go, and then Madam Nicole will come in.
Oh yeah, Shabbat Shalom. I was just gonna say what I noticed that's a huge difference is one, the words. So shofar is everybody can blow from it, and Teruah, the priest can blow from it, which is, and only the priest can blow from it because it's a trumpet. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I remember. So that is considered to be more holy than everybody just blowing from it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else? Madam Nicole.
To me, it seems as though one is you're blowing the shofar in remembrance as a practice, remembering Israel, and the other is it's a remembrance of the blowing, the actual blowing of the shofar itself.
Okay, I understand where you're going from. Correct. Okay. Good.
Rabbi,
Madam Jew.
Rabbi, I thought that the blowing of the teruah meant those short blasts, the pum 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 pum, and it's summoning the congregation.
Okay.
I thought the teruah meant that it was the silver horns blowing those short notes and summoning the congregation. Maybe I mixed that up, but that's what I thought I heard you say.
Okay. Understood. What are we supposed to blow according to Leviticus 23? The correct rendering of the text below.
You can blow
The trumpets.
The
The
silver horn.
blowing of the trumpets, the silver horns.
No, that's the priest.
You see the difficulty in the text.
Right, the priest is supposed to blow it, but the word, the text itself tells you that it is the blowing of the trumpet, not the shofar.
Madam Toy has something going on in the chat. Madam Toy, it seems you get it. Don't say anything. Hold that thought. I want us to think. Why have we blown the shofar on Yom Teruah when Leviticus 23:24 doesn't mention a shofar? Your text reads shofar. It's not shofar, it's teruah. Teruah is not a shofar. It's a noise the shofar may make, but that is not the instrument asked to be blown in Leviticus 23:24. So why have we been blowing the shofar? Okay, teruah doesn't mean trumpets. Teruah doesn't mean trumpets. It's the noise that the trumpet makes. That's teruah.
It's a blast, right?
It's a blast. So why have we chosen the shofar when the shofar is not there?
Rabbi.
Mr. Jason.
I see what you're saying. I'm looking at the Hebrew right now, and it literally says teruah.
Yes.
So the shofar is not there.
It's not.
So that's probably a translation language issue there.
Whoever did that translation, I understand why they're doing the translation, because that's what we've seen being done based on an oral tradition. I understand that. But the text doesn't say that. And I'm not going by oral tradition. What does the text say?
So we're to remember the sound of the blast
Of the blast. Perfectly. No, don't put it there of the, because we are not told of the what. It just says we should remember the blast.
Right, because each blast signifies something.
Correct.
So it's to bring the people to get together so that they'll always know, the next generation will always know the sound of the blast. That it's for occasions, it's for war, it's for assembly.
Correct.
So it stays throughout that generation and to the next one.
Yes.
As an assembly of the children of Israel.
Okay. Madam Toy put a picture of a human being there. We'll address that shortly. Madam Toy, quiet. If you speak, I'll bump you off the call. Quiet. You see the problem there? We blow the shofar. I know, that's what we all do. But the text doesn't say we should blow the shofar. I've showed you two instruments that can qualify, but none of them is mentioned here. It's only the blast, the teruah, that we are told about, not the instrument for producing that teruah.
So, Rabbi, the remembrance has to do with the kind of blast, and the kind of blast will let us know what the occasion is, right?
Correct, yes. The kind of blast will let us know what the occasion is. You're right, yes.
That's what we're supposed to remember.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Correct, yes. It's the blast. Yes. You're supposed to remember that blast. Correct. Madam Tracy says, my Tanakh says a sacred occasion commemorated with loud blasts. Correct. You see, Madame Tracy doesn't mention the instrument. There's a reason why I introduced the second instrument, the shofar, and then the trumpet. Everybody blows the shofar. The trumpet is only the priest that blows it. But in giving us the instruction for the feast, none of the two instruments are mentioned. It is the sound that can be produced by both instruments is what the focus is. You see the problem? I want everybody to understand the problem. It does not say a remembrance of blowing a shofar. So we want to find out on which of the two instruments is this call to be blown, and by whom?
By whom? But I know that either could be used, I guess.
Rabbi, can either one, can both of them be used by both people, all people?
We'll find out. Because if it's the trumpet, it means that it's only the priest that's going to be blowing it, correct? Because they are the only ones that can blow it. If it's the shofar, anyone can blow it. But the text is quite silent, and then it gives, and we are left confused. We are left with questions. I mean, we are totally lost. So this is the issue that we need to solve. Now, no, at Sinai, it was Yah who was doing the shofar. He was blowing the shofar. At Sinai, it was specifically a shofar, not a trumpet. So now we see what Leviticus 23 is telling us, and we have questions. Rightfully so, written purposely. We come to Numbers 29. And then we read almost the same instructions. And in the 7th month, on the first day, there shall be a holy convocation for you. You shall not perform any mundane work. It shall be a day of Teruah for you. If you compare it to Leviticus 23, we have a repetition of the ruling, but something has changed. If you look at it carefully, it is no longer a reminder, but it's still a day of Teruah. But it still doesn't say on which instrument and by whom. It is only when we reach the Talmud that we find that indeed it should be blown on the shofar. When we get to the Talmud, it's concluded that this should be blown on the shofar. But we want to look at the text. We move further on. And then we come to Leviticus 25. Is it 25 or 29? That we have the first undoubted use of the shofar in a ritual. Can somebody check real quick for me? Is it Leviticus 29 or Leviticus 25? I think it's
29 and 1.
It's 29:9, 25:9. Check Leviticus 25:9 for me. I want to be sure. Leviticus 29:9 is correct, right? Okay.
25:9.
25:9. Okay, sorry. So it's Leviticus 25:9, not Leviticus 29:9. Leviticus 25:9. When I was clicking, I saw like, wait a second, it's 25. We hear, you shall proclaim with the shofar blasts in the 7th month, on the 10th of the month, on the day of atonement, you shall sound the shofar throughout your land. And you shall sanctify the 15th year and proclaim freedom for slaves throughout the land for all who live on it. It shall be a jubilee for you. And you shall return each man to his property, and you shall return each man to his family. So we see that here in Leviticus 29, I believe this is talking about Yom Kippurim, the Day of Atonement. It is the shofar that is blasted, not the trumpets. It is the shofar that is blasted. So we can say, maybe we can conclude, okay, looking at the Day of Atonement, which is going to come after Yom Teruah, we are blowing the shofar, so maybe we can settle with the shofar if I'm supposed to rule, if I'm part of the Sanhedrin, and I'm supposed to rule. Maybe I would say, okay, looking at Leviticus 25:9, let's make Yom Teruah the shofar. Maybe, but not quite yet. Question from YouTube. If it's a holy convocation, wouldn't it be the priest? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. The people can also... making it holy doesn't make it specifically or exclusively for the priest. No. So we have in Leviticus 25, we can say, okay, because Yom Kippur, it says, is the shofar that is used, maybe let's rule that in Leviticus 23, let's settle for the shofar. You can do that. But I like the text speaking for itself. What is our next reference in the Tanakh for a shofar? We've seen the Exodus 1, we've seen the Leviticus 23, we've seen Leviticus 25. Now we come to the book of Joshua. Mr. Jason is ahead of me. It was specifically, we are told, that it was the priests who were to blow the shofar and to remove all doubt. In that chapter, they are called ram's horn. They are not called teruah. They are called ram's horn. Let's come to Joshua 6 and spend some time there, and then we'll come back and answer our question. And Jericho had shut its gates and was barred because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And Yah said to Joshua, see, I have given into your hand Jericho and its king, the mighty warriors. Madam Toy, don't go to 20 yet. I told you I'll boot you from the class. Madam Toy is ahead of me. We have 3 things listed here. It says, I would give into your hand Jericho. When you say, I'll give into your hand Jericho, you tell him that you give him the land and the people. If you say, I'll give into your hand the United States, you are saying, I will give you the United States, which comprises of the people, the land, its resources, everything. Okay. Now you tell me you will give me its king as well. The text is not talking about the king, the physical king who sits on the throne in Jericho. It's talking about the principality over that territory. So now we've left the physical realm, we've come into the spiritual. And then the text tells us the mighty warriors. These are the spiritual forces. we see something unique here. Yah is telling Joshua, I'm going to give you physical triumph over Jericho, and then a spiritual triumph. We're going to cover the physical and then the spiritual. I hope you're following me. Okay. Why is this important? Let's go back to Joshua 2 and look at Joshua's encounter with this strange individual. And she said to the man, with Rahab, the interesting woman. Let's look at the physical. I'm moving for it. It's Madame Toy's fault. She's gone for it, so she's pulling me there. Let me take my time. We have the physical and then the spiritual. The physical is already conquered. How do we know that? When the spies encountered Rahab, this is what Rahab told them, Joshua 2. And she said to the men, I know that Yah has given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land have melted away because of you. For we have heard how Yah dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites that were on the outside of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you completely destroyed. And as soon as we heard, our hearts melted, nor did there remain any more spirit in any man because of you. So clearly, even before the war starts, physically, the battle is readily won. Because Rahab tells them, everyone is scared because of what they heard Yah do in Egypt, and then what you've done to those 2 Canaanite nations. The focus now here is the spiritual. Because you just don't take cities and nations, you don't. We come to Joshua 5, and now we meet the strange individual. And it was when Joshua was in Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, a man was standing opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, Are you for us or for our adversaries? And he said, No, but I am the captain of the host of Yah. I have now come. Look at verse 14. Did this man answer the question? What does the no imply? Joshua asked a question. Are you for us or are you our adversaries? Are you against us? And he says no. What does that answer? I'm confused.
He's right. He's of the spiritual realm, Rabbi. He's not of the physical realm. I'm not for the Jericho, and I'm not for the Israelites. I'm for whatever Yah decides for what's going down. That's what I'm down with.
Okay. When Tara says the answers were questions. Okay, good. No what? It says no, but I am captain of the host of Yah. I have now come. He said he has come. Okay. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and prostrated himself and said to him, What does my Lord say to his servant? So, you see, Joshua thinks that he's the one leading the army, but this one is the captain who's going to lead the army. Because now it's a spiritual battle. It's not a physical battle. The physical battle has been won readily. The people are already scared. When you put fear in your enemy, you've won the battle already. You just have to go there and just whoop them. But now, the focus is the principality and the mighty warriors. This is the spiritual side of what is going to happen. Okay, so Joshua fell on his face to the earth and prostrated himself and said to him, What does my Lord say to his servant? And the captain of Yah's host said to Joshua, "Remove your shoe from your foot, for the place upon which you stand is holy." And Joshua did so. How many shoes did Joshua remove? You should already know this. One. Awesome. Joshua removed just a sandal. He kept the other one on because it's plural there. Moshe removed both. And we explained that when he removed both, it showed that the experience of taking the people out is going to be one of a very high level, one of a spiritual level, because he has to deal with all the spiritual entities in Egypt. Here, the angel says remove one. Keep one foot in the sandal and remove one. Meaning that there's going to be a physical entity and then there's going to be a spiritual one. You're going to be stepping into two realms at the same time. Confirming what is happening here. The physical and then the spiritual. Before the spiritual comes into effect, you have to do something physically. That is why you have one shoe on or one sandal on and one sandal off. It's a two-pronged battle. We're doing the physical and then we're going to do the spiritual. What you do physically is what is going to trigger the spiritual to take place. Hope it's clear up to here. So what we're getting ready for really is a spiritual battle here. Okay, we're making good time. Let's move on.
Rabbi, can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Are these shadams or are they mawudala?
No, these are not shadings. These are actually, let me say this. I don't know. For now, I don't know. I will know when we
Okay.
when
What
we
ask
do
is,
when
why
we
does
do
he have a
Josh.
sword? If everybody is on, if every principality or deity is, when I say deity, I'm talking about everybody's under the Most High. You know, it's levels of authority. You feel what I'm saying?
Correct.
Every country has its own deity or has its own spiritual entity. Mawudala. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
So why would they gotta fight?
Yes. So they're not fighting as in shields and swords, and no, they're not fighting. Him drawing out his sword means that he's ready for battle, but they're not going to be throwing rocks and no, the angels aren't going to be doing that at all. You see what's going to happen very shortly. But I'm saying I don't know because it would take me off course. So we'll discuss that offline. So we are set for a spiritual battle, and the instruction says, "And Jericho has shut its gate and was barred because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And Yah said to Joshua, See, I have given into your hand Jericho and its king, the mighty warriors, and you shall circle the city. All the men of war go round about the city once. Thus shall you do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark." So we have the shofar stated here. "And on the 7th day you shall encircle the city 7 times. And the priest shall blow with the trumpets." So the men of war here is going to be Gad, Reuben, and then half of Manasseh, because they were the ones who promised Moshe that they would be in the forefront. When we start Joshua, we'll cover all of this. But they are the ones that are going to be the men of war. "And it shall be that when they make a strong blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down in its place, and the people shall go up, every man opposite him." No problem. It looks very detailed. It looks straight to the point. Madam Toy is putting smileys in that chat. I will look at it. Why the number 7? Why the number 7? Have you ever thought about it? Why circle is 7 times, 1 a day, and then on the 7th day, circle is 7 times. I mean, you can do 10, you can do 8, you can do, 7. It seems unnecessary. It seems it's like Egypt. You don't need 10 plagues to take them out, but he used 10 plagues. Here, I don't think Yah needs people to circle the thing 7 times for the miracle to happen. So it seems the 7 has some significance. Let me show you the picture. They are going to take over a territory that was promised to the patriarchs. So this is coming into the land. The patriarchs were the ones promised the land. Now they're going to take over it. Why 7? We're talking about the spiritual realm now, not physical. Why 7?
Rabbi, doesn't 7 mean completion?
7 means
And the
completion. Okay.
Sabbath mean completion. So you're done at 7. There's no need for 8. You just do it 7 times and then you're done. It's finished.
Okay.
It relates back to
Thank you. Somebody else is going to say something. And then and then Madam Drew came in. I didn't see the name. I'm sorry. Okay. Now let's do a little bit of education on spiritual warfare. You don't fight spiritually in a vacuum. The person that you're going to fight spiritually may have things backing them. We say they've cooked themselves in the tree dialect or beneho. Somebody who is fortified in the spiritual realm is not doing that with just words. They have things that speak for them or speak on their behalf, or things that speak on their behalf against another person. We are going to take over a territory that was promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and they never saw it. And we, as their descendants, we are going to take it over. We've come to the walls, and the place is shut up. It is shut. The people are scared. Yes, they are. Physically, we've won the battle. But now we have a representative that is our principality showing up. Meaning that now there is a spiritual realm or the spiritual battle that needs to be fought. How do you fight spiritual battles? You need altars. You need an altar. I'm choosing my words carefully because it's not a private class. It's on YouTube.
Brother Basil,
Madam
you
Cynthia.
say, what did you say was the first thing? Was contest, you said?
Say it again? No, an altar.
Before the altar, you said something else. You need, what did you say before the altar?
No, I
You said context? You need a context, you say. Something, the word, did I hear right?
No, I don't remember. So I said in spiritual battles, you need something that is going to speak on your behalf. There is, how'd you call it? There is something physical that things are poured on, things are done to that thing for it to have a spiritual effect. Those are altars. Madam Cynthia, go ahead before I continue.
No, I thought you said something else before that. I know about the altar thing, but I thought you said something else, that you need context or you need something else. So I was trying to think, before you said altar, I thought you said you need context and you need an altar.
Oh,
I thought you
I
had
don't
something
remember.
else. Yeah,
I don't remember.
that's what I was trying to think.
Maybe when you replay the class back. So, the people that the land is promised to is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. How many altars was built amongst these three people?
Was there 7? I'm just guessing here.
It's a good guess. Yes, I would say 7 too. This is why the number 7 here plays a huge role. It's not 7 days of the week. No, it's a spiritual battle, and you need altars to fight that spiritual battle. I'll prove that very soon. Abraham built 4 altars. Isaac built 1. Jacob built 2 altars. You have that number 7. Put that number of altars in your spirit. I'll prove that point right now. Let's look at altars. Altars are inanimate structures that can hear and that can speak. That's why they put blood on the altars. That is what gives them life. Altars can hear, altars can speak. Altars can hear when words are said on the altars. When petitions are made, when prayers are made, altars hear it. And altars can speak on behalf of somebody who is putting a sacrifice on that altar. Sounds spooky. I'll just leave it at that. 1 Kings 13. And behold, a man of Elohim came from Judah at the command of Yah to Bethel. And Jeroboam was standing on the altar offering sacrifices. And he called in prophecy about the altar at the command of Yah, and he said, Altar, altar. So said Yah. Who is the prophet speaking to? That erected altar. That sacrifices is going to be made on it. That blood is going to be poured on it. Yah told Cain, the blood of Abel is speaking from the ground. Altars speak, altars listen. Altar, altar, the prophet is speaking to that erected altar. Altar, altar, so said Yah. Behold, a son will be born to the house of David. Josiah will be his name. And upon you he will slaughter all the priests of the high places who offer sacrifices on you, and human bones will they burn upon you. And he gave a sign on that day, saying, This is the sign that Yah has spoken. Behold, the altar shall be split, and the ashes that are upon it shall be spilled. So you can destroy someone's altar if your altar is more powerful. Let's go on. And it was, when the king heard the words of the man of Yah, which he proclaimed concerning the altar in Bethel, he proclaimed concerning the altar, that Jeroboam stretched out his hand from over the altar, saying, Seize him. And his hand that he had stretched out against him became stiff, and he could not draw his hand back to himself. And the altar split, and the ashes fell from the altar in accordance with the sign that the man of Yah gave by the word of Yah. So altars speak, altars listen. When you're going into territories, there are principalities that are governing every place. Before you can demonstrate any mind spiritually, before you can conquer them spiritually, you have to bind their territorial powers first. Or you have to go to their priest and then they will give you permission to perform whatever rites that you have to do. It happens today. You cannot have the chief priest of the Ashanti kingdom come into the territories of the Gas and start conjuring or reaching out to his, for lack of words, deities. No. You have to go to the chief priest of that territory. You have to tell him what you are here for, what you want to do. You ask for permission, and then the chief priest will consult with, for lack of words, his deities of that territory and ask for permission. And then they will grant you permission. This is all in the text. This is spiritual warfare. So you come to Jericho and our principality shows up. We're going to take over that territory. That is why Yeshua said you don't come into a strong man's house until you bind him first. And then you can get into his house and then take his spoils. You cannot just enter. You have to bind. There's going to be a spiritual warfare there. So now, we have 7 altars that our patriarchs built amongst the 3 of them. And those altars, as we go round the wall, each day, each circle, we invoke an altar. We're going to invoke all 7 of them to be able to take the city. That's why we are told that the city was fortified. Spiritually, they were fortified. Not just their walls, their physical walls, no. So now we invoke our altars and speak against them. And the powerful one is the one that is going to win. Let's prove this. Numbers 22. We know of a gentleman called Balaam, the son of Beor. Let's see what the text says. The children of Israel journeyed and encamped in the plains of Moab across the Jordan from Jericho. Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. Moab became terrified of the people, for they were numerous, and Moab became disgusted because of the children of Israel. Moab said to the elders of Midian, "Now this assembly will eat up everything around us, as the ox eats up the greens of the field." Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of Moab at that time. He sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, to Pethor. This is in Mesopotamia. Balaam, like I said, is no joke. Serious, if I can call him prophet, whoever I want to call him, or diviner. He's no joke. He is serious. When he speaks, it happens. That's why he's being called here. They're not calling him to just come and try and error. No. They're calling him because he has a record. He sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, to Pethor, which is by the river of the land of his people, to call for him, saying, "A people has come out of Egypt, and behold, they have covered the eye of the land, and they are stationed opposite me. So now, please come and curse this people for me." Come and raise some altars against them and curse them. "For they are too powerful for me. Perhaps I'll be able to wage war against them and drive them out of the land. For I know that whomever you bless is blessed, and whomever you curse is cursed." I told you, Balaam is no joke. His resume bears witness. So Balak sends for him. The ending part of the verse should let you itch. What does it remind you of?
When you asked it about if who would bless us, would bless us, and who bless us, is that bit?
Correct. In Genesis 12, it was said to Abraham, and I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. This is what it said to Abraham. Balak is saying, I know that whomever you bless is blessed, and whomever you curse is cursed. Now do this. Look at this parallel. Take Abraham's journey to go sacrifice Isaac, and take Balaam's journey to go curse Israel. You will see the amazing parallels. They both wake up early in the morning. They both saddle their donkey, and they both left. Continue with the parallels. You'll be shocked. This man is someone who, when he speaks, happens. As if he's challenging Abraham here. It gets more interesting. He is going. He wants to go curse these people. He's told not to walk. He can walk on the same street with them, but not with the same idea, mentality. He walks on the same street, and then he walks with the same mentality. He wants to go curse these people, but Yah is preventing him from doing so. So we are told, and the angel of Yah said to Balaam, go with these men, by the word I speak to you, that you shall speak. So Balaam went with Balak's dignitaries. Balak heard that Balaam was coming, so he went out towards him to the city of Moab, which is on the border of Ammon, at the extreme edge of the border. Balak said to Balaam, did I not send to you to call for you? Why did you not come to me? Am I indeed incapable of honoring you? Balaam said to Balak, behold, I have come to you. Do I have any power to say anything? The word Elohim puts in my mouth, that I will speak. Balaam went with Balak, and they arrived at Kiat Huzoth, the city of streets. Balak slaughtered cattle and sheep and sent some to Balaam and to the dignitaries with him. He came with an entourage. And in the morning, Balak took Balaam and led him up the Bamoth Baal, to Bamoth Baal, and from there he saw part of the people. Now look at his strategy. Balaam said to Balak, build me 7 altars here, and prepare for me 7 bulls and 7 rams. Balak did as Balaam had requested, and Balak and Balaam offered up a bull and a ram on each altar. Balaam said to Balak, stand beside your burnt offering, and I will go. Perhaps Yah will happen to appear to me, and he will show me something that I can tell you. Why does Balaam erect 7 altars?
Because of what Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did.
Yes, explain further. What was the reason?
Is it measure for measure? He wants to have, like, basically speak against each altar.
Correct. To match them. We have 7 altars protecting us. 7 altars in our name. Before you can curse us, you have to challenge those 7 altars. You can't just curse. Balaam knows that. He's been sent to curse us. This is a spiritual warfare. So to be able to do that, he's going to challenge every single altar that has been erected on our behalf by our patriarchs. It's like a matchup. You're matching them. So all the levels, whatever spiritual levels, whatever these altars represent, you have to match them, because you cannot just conquer one altar and start raining curses. No, there are 6 of them speaking on the behalf of the people. So this is the battle plan. He's going to curse them so that spiritually they'll be weak, and then Balak can fight us and win. He wants to drive us out. He just wants to drive us out. This is how spiritual warfare takes place. Mr. Marvin, please go ahead.
So it's safe to say that Balaam was a seer.
Yes.
Like, for sure, that's the only way he would have been able to see this stuff.
He's, like I said, he's no joke. He's no joke. He knows what he's doing. That is why he's summoned. That is why Balak kept sending people, because this is the guy for the job. You want somebody who's going to succeed, this is him. That is why Yah comes to him and he says, hey, don't move an inch. Why? Yah understands these spiritual concepts. Maybe the Israelites are vulnerable because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So if he curses them, it's going to work. So Yah intervenes and he says, check it. Don't worry. Sorry, not don't worry. Take your time. Don't venture. Pretty much.
Brother Basil, why did he just do like more than 7? If he wants to do like, I know the reason why he did 7, but if he did more, wouldn't that be like more power? Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
No, the idea is to bind your strong man, and if you're strong man, the only 7, you don't need to do an 8.
Do more, right? Okay.
Correct. So you see what he's doing? These are altars. You're matching them, and then you're going against them like, head on. You have to conquer. You have to bind their strong man, and then when he pronounces the curse, the altars are not there, the merits are not there to protect them.
So say Balaam, suppose he saw 6 altars instead of 7, would he also have been instructed that there's supposed to be 7, but he only sees 6?
No, if he saw 7,
are those acceptable?
Correct. If he saw 6, he would have built 6 altars. If it did not work, he would go back to consult and see why it did not work.
Oh, and then they would tell him,
correct,
that it's supposed to be 7 or something like that.
Correct.
And
yes.
Like, oh wow, that's interesting.
Yes. You can go back and say, okay, it did not work. They'll find out why it did not work. Like Joshua, when they did not win the war, he went back to find out. So we have the Urim and Thummim that we consult to tell us stuff. The other nations also have their stuff. That is why it's critical when it comes to spiritual warfare. We are not the only people with a kind of authority. We are not the only people with prophets. The other nations may not call them prophets, but they are diviners. When Saul wanted to speak to Samuel, he went to the other nations to be able to facilitate that communication. It's very, very, very important. Yah tells us that stick with your prophets. Don't go to the other nations. Because the same thing that our prophets can see, they can see it.
So it's Balaam has his own way of communicating or to going into the spiritual realm, but it just doesn't tell you what he did exactly to be able to see that.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Rabbi?
Mr. Jason.
I think what will help here too is some cultural backdrop.
True.
Because sometimes we look at these things as if they're isolated.
True.
Balaam and Abraham is from the same region.
Mesopotamia. Yep.
They're both from Mesopotamia. So the power that Balaam had, Abraham had too, because when Abimelech was attacked, Yah came. I mean, when Abraham lied to Abimelech, Yah came to Abimelech in his dream and said to him, "Do not touch this man's wife. He's my prophet."
Correct.
So Abimelech was like, "But we're a righteous people. Would you destroy us?" And Yah pretty much said, "Yeah, I will. Just don't touch his wife."
Correct.
Then he said, "Since Abraham's my prophet, have him pray for you, and I'll open back up the wombs of the people."
Yeah.
So like Abraham, I think like when we look at the text, we don't see the power behind who our ancestors were. They were very powerful spiritual people.
Yes.
So Balaam, that's why they called Balaam from where he was from.
True.
Because of the power of the spirituality that was in the land in which he came from.
Yes. So very true. We don't live in a vacuum. We had neighbors, and most of the things that the text speaks about us, they had their versions. So you would see the general had leprosy, his deities or the powers in his territory couldn't solve it. So what did the king say? Go to the territory of the Hebrews. I've heard of this guy there. He can solve it. When he came, what did Elijah say? Go bathe. He was healed. That is why in the ancient world they were polytheists, because sometimes the deity in the territory of Egypt couldn't do something that the ones in Mesopotamia could do. So you go there. Saul goes to the necromancers. And what she did was on point. It wasn't tricks. It was on point. And Saul knew that he could get the answer from there. Israel is told, stick to your prophets. Don't go to them. The text doesn't say that what they are doing is sleight of hand. The text doesn't say that. So Balaam here, being a very spiritual person, having the ability to see things spiritually, having the ability to speak and to cause harm, a sermon coming from the same place that the person who got the promise, Abraham, comes from, and they're going to go head on. So he erects these altars. This man wants to curse us, but it is Yah that is preventing him. He's erected altars, and now because there is a clause there that is preventing him to speak, he has to go and see if Yah is going to maybe change his mind, because maybe the people are doing something wrong. Maybe the people don't benefit his protection. What is crazy here is that Yah communicates, is unusual. Let me say that. It's unusual. It seems Yah is communicating to this man in the daytime, not at night when he usually does. See how insane that is? We know Balaam has to be asleep to have that communication. But it seems that this is the daytime. I could be wrong, but it seems, when I read it, it seems it's the daytime. And because of how critical this thing is, it's a Yah happens upon him. It's like, when your kid is doing something they're not supposed to be doing, and then you happen upon them, It's like, what are you doing? And he tells him, I've set up 7 altars. Are you going to change your mind on that? But the words that is put in his mouth is something actually good. What I am demonstrating here is that altars are real. To be able to conquer a people spiritually, you have to come against their strong men. We have 7 altars speaking for us. So Balaam has to conquer those 7 altars, bind those altars or the strong man, and then he can have his way to rain curses, whatever he's going to say, which would work, and then Balak would win over us. So Joshua is instructed to do the same. Go around 7 times. Every day is an altar that we're invoking. We are invoking all our altars to be able to battle these people. That is not my focus. The altars and the part is not my focus. We see their focus now. And Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark of Yah. And he said to the people, pass on and encircle the city, and let the armed ones pass before the ark of Yah. And it was, when Joshua spoke to the people And the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horn passed on before, that is the ark of Yah, and blew with a trumpet, and the ark of covenant of Yah followed them. And the armed men went before the priest that blew the trumpets. The teruah. No. These are the shofars. When you see trumpets here in Joshua 6, is specifically the shofar. And they blew the shofar, or the shofrot, and the rear guard came after the ark, the priests going on and blowing with the shofar. And Joshua commanded the people, saying, You shall not shout, nor let your voice be heard, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I bid you shout. So take everything in. Take in the tension. Take in the anticipation. Everything that is happening. Just take it in. Concentrate on it. Focus on it. But don't make any shout. Internalize it. Build up the energy. Look to the future. This thing is going to go down. We are going to take it. That is your job now. Internalize it. And he caused the ark of Yah to circle the city, going about it once. And they came into the camp and lodged in the camp. They did that 6 times. Now the 7th day, verses 15. And it was on the 7th day that they rose early at dawn of the day, meaning that today you're not going to circle it only once. You're going to circle it 7 times. So you better start on time because it's a big city, it's a big wall. So they get up very early in the morning, all fired up. They're going to circle it 7 times. It's not going to be an easy walk, but you have to do it 7 times. And they circled the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day, they circled the city 7 times. And it was at the 7th time the priest blew with the trumpets. And Joshua said to the people, Shout, for Yah has given you the city. Verse 20, and the people shouted, and the priest blew with the trumpets. And it was when the people heard the sound of the shofar that the people shouted with a great shout, a teruah gedolah. And the wall fell down in its place, and the people went up into the city, every man opposite him, and they took the city. Look at how the great shout is translated. No, look at it in the Hebrew. Does that word sound familiar? Have we seen it somewhere?
From Numbers.
From Numbers, yes. We saw it somewhere else before Numbers. Teruah. What instrument makes that teruah sound?
So the silver one.
What instrument makes that teruah sound?
Trumpet.
The trumpet? And then?
Mouth.
Was it shouting?
Yes, I want the devices that make the noises. We have the trumpet. We have another device.
The voice.
The shofar. And then the mouth. Do you see what I'm seeing? The great noise.
Rabbi, oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
The
Mr.
two
Jason.
noises we have are the trumpet and the shout.
Correct.
The trumpet and the shout made the noises. Oh,
Correct, yes.
It's the trumpet and the voice.
Oh.
It's the people, Rabbi, that the
Our
people
shout-
shouted with a great shout. It's the people.
Which of the two brought down the walls?
The people. The sound of the mouth of the
People.
great shout of the people.
You thought it was the shofar. You see why Leviticus 23 doesn't mention an instrument? There is a voice embedded in us. When we sit down at the feast time, at the appointed time, we have been conditioned, indoctrinated to look outside of us for a sound. And yet there is a teruah inside of us. A voice that knows all our issues, the breakthroughs we want, our burdens, walls. And the shout that Yah wants to hear is not from no shofar, a ram's horn. He wants to hear that sound emanate from you. A teruah gedola, a personal sound, a sound that speaks. When Yah hears it, Yah knows that this is Madam Cynthia. This is Madam Toy. This is her unique sound, reaching out into the portals that are opened. Put your voice prints on this shout. And as you hear the trumpets, the shofar blast externally, generate that power. Joshua said, don't shout. Hold that shout in. We're going to do this. Meditate on it. We're going to get this city. We're going to get whatever we want. It's an appointed time. It's a divine appointment. The walls have to come down, but the shout has to come from you. The great noise is commonly translated as a great shout, but the Hebrew words are teruah gedola. The teruah is a word normally used for the trumpeting. Did the people also each blow a shofar? Or did they make some other noise? Or was it indeed a shout? We know it wasn't all of them that had shofars. But what we know is that it was not the sound of the priest's 7 shofarot that flattened the wall, but that it was the noise that the people made. So the text tells us, speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, it shall be a Shabbat for you, a remembrance of Teruah, a holy occasion. No instrument is mentioned. The shofar is not mentioned. The trumpet is not mentioned. And we just have evidence. We just saw evidence of the shout that emanated from the people called a Teruah Gadola. As I said, we lost the trumpet in 70 when it fell. But thank Yah, we still have our shofars. As the shofar is being blown and you listen, don't forget the teruah that is supposed to emanate from your being, because that is what brought down the walls of Jericho. No shofar is mentioned there. Like I said, we use the shofar because we see it in the Talmud. I'm not saying it's wrong. I am saying that what the text is saying is that Yah wants to hear the shout from you personally. That Teruah Gadola, that shout, that comes from the being, that comes from meditating, that comes from preparing, because you know the walls are coming down today. And on the feast of Yom Teruah, when the portals open, when the feast comes in, that's why the angel told Joshua, the place you stand is holy. What, Jericho? Which place is holy? No, the time is holy. And that is when we blow our personal individual shofars. That is why, Madame Toy, when I asked about Leviticus 23, you see that she put an emoji of a human being shouting. That is more powerful than the instrument. As we are still in this appointed time, the feast of the blowing of trumpets, may Yah hear your voice. May Yah hear your Teruah Gadola, because that is what he wants to hear. The pain, the anguish, the troubles, the walls of Jericho that need to be crumpled for you to enjoy the season that is coming. Shout from your inner being and let Yah hear, so that the walls may come tumbling down. This is what is happening on the feast of Yom Teruah or Rosh Hashanah. Let us shout with joy. Let us shout for results. Let us shout because it's time to take Jericho. Questions, contributions, additions before we close?
Yeah, Rabbi.
Mr. Marvin.
So I'm under the impression that the wall that's coming down is a physical wall, but I want to know if there's a deeper understanding, because what they have done is something spiritual. So I'm wondering if, when the text says that the walls of Jericho fell, are they really referring to it like a spiritual wall, or should we interpret it as a physical wall? We know it's done spiritually and done physically in this case, but
Correct.
like, should we interpret it as?
No, so it's a physical barrier.
Say it again?
It's a physical barrier. It's
a
a physical
barrier.
wall,
Okay.
but you need
the
spirit to bring it down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I say physical wall, I'm not talking about the wall in your backyard. No, We're talking about difficulties. Like something that is like Satan is a stumbling block. It's something that prevents you. So anything that is preventing you from going forward in life, that is holding you back, is a wall that needs to be brought down.
Removed.
Right.
But like I understand it for like, how we would apply it to our lives today. But I was just trying to see, like, if someone asks me about this, like, should I tell them that those walls of Jericho were physical walls, or should I say that they were spiritual walls, and then they did it, then they, went in and attacked?
Correct. So naturally, we know why the walls came down. It was because of an earthquake. Naturally. If I'm going straight text without any spiritual side to it, and you ask me, are you telling me that circling around a wall will make it fall? Can you explain it scientifically? Yes, we know, we have evidence that it was an earthquake that happened through the shout, because noise, with the amount of people going around the wall with the shout, sound causes earthquake. And we have, for a fact, we have archaeological records that the walls of Jericho were rebuilt over and over based on those who settled it. And we have records of earthquakes that actually brought the walls down in the past, before the Hebrews got there to Jericho.
Wow.
So naturally, it would have been the sound that would trigger that earthquake for the walls to come down. So we can explain it in natural terms. But when you look at the text, you see that there is a spiritual side of it, because we see the angel coming to do battle. And how the text says Jericho, its king, the mighty warriors. See that there are entities that are mentioned that also needed to be conquered for us to take the place.
My other question now is, was this around the feast time? Like, I don't know. I don't remember.
Tradition has it that it was around Rosh Hashanah. Some traditions.
So it was. Oh wow.
Yes, some traditions have that. Yes. So yes, the walls of Jericho, they are historical. It's been built and rebuilt by different settlers, and then we have evidence that the walls collapsed when they dug it. A side had collapsed, and the reason was because of earthquakes. So
to me, it's like as an Israelite, when you're trying to overcome some obstacle in the near future, it's best to do it or charge it near a feast time.
Not necessarily. There are some things that are easily battled during these feast times.
But like the major obstacles, probably.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't have to be a feast. Sometimes it's because it's not always that you have to wait. So let's say if you missed Sukkot, it means you have to wait all the way to Passover for your breakthrough to come. Not necessarily. The breakthrough can come anytime. But sometimes there are things that just don't want to move, and we need that extra boost. And those extra boosts comes not only during the feasts, but also during the Shabbat, because the Shabbat is also a feast. So every 7 days we have a feast. We have a portal open, which is the Shabbat. But then we have the appointments that are listed as Pesach, Shavuot, and then the rest.
Wow. All right, my last question.
No problem.
So this one is more. I know you didn't want to touch too much on it because it wasn't the focus, but we know that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they had altars, and then we know that the prophets, after Moses, they had dreams in which they would communicate with the Most High. Now, after that, I mean, or not after that, but do they also have altars? Like, do the prophets also have altars? Kind of like what Balaam did, but different or so? Because I think even Elijah, when he was doing, when it was, I think it was
With the bow.
the fire.
Yep.
Yeah, the fire or so, like, and roasting the animal flesh or something like that. I think he had an altar as well.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So when he had that altar, so that altar was allowed him to see like the other like deities or their principalities or so.
No. So Israel doesn't need an altar to hear from Yah. We don't. Our patriarchs are the ones who erected the altars.
Okay.
The altars that they erect are the ones that speak for us. We have different altars that we worship on them. Those are different than the altars that the 7 altars that were raised by our patriarchs. Completely different.
Okay. So are those altars around till this day?
Which ones? The 7 that Abraham and the co erected?
Yeah.
Yes, they're still around.
And if they aren't?
Yes, they are.
Oh, they are. Okay. And even if they weren't physically, we could still use it.
No. When you say physically,
not for us to use it, but like it would still represent spiritually, or no?
No. So physically, no. I'm not talking about physically, because I don't know where to find them. But spiritually, the altars that are raised, yes, they still speak on behalf of the Hebrew people. Yes.
Okay. Whether we know if they're still there or not. Okay.
Whether you know they're still there or not, correct.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Okay. But you can erect personal altars. I'll talk about that in private in the class when we are not broadcasting on YouTube. We can talk about that, how to set up altars.
Okay.
Altars that do not go against the Bible.
Okay. Yeah, that's necessary.
Rabbi.
Yes, Mr. Jason.
This pushes a even different aspect, because when you look at the text this way, from a outside standpoint, I mean, these practices scream of African spirituality.
Correct.
Like the erecting of altars and things of that nature. I had family in Louisiana that used to practice like voodoo and stuff like that.
Yes.
And they would erect altars and things of that nature here. And that's, a practice that was taken from when, we came from the west coast of Africa during like slavery and things of that nature. So you get to see how much our culture is, whether it's good or bad, is intertwined into the biblical narrative, almost like pretty much like verbatim, like how things are done. Do you think that we should begin to look at those practices, not in a negative light, but for the ability to be able to continue to enhance ourselves spiritually, like our ancestors would have done?
Yes, but it's a bit tricky because now it's so perverted. It's so perverted that it's risky. Sometimes it's hard to even find the genuine ones. So we can study about them, and there has been a rush from the West of people getting into voodoo, Ifa, being initiated into these what they call African spirituality. It looks very appealing. It looks very fashionable. Let's go back to our roots. But then you should ask, why is it that those who are very close to these things don't really patronize them, because we have encountered them, we have dealt with them. Some of us are still dealing with some of the ills of these practices. They are genuine ones, but the counterfeits are so many that sometimes it's impossible to see which one is genuine. So when you get initiated into these things, you have to find out the person who's doing it. Does this person have any deities? Because almost everyone has a different one. Who is this person working for? What entity is it? Because you might not see anything in your lifetime, but maybe in your children's lifetime it's going to affect them. So it's not just following someone, as I've seen happening on YouTube, reading books, finding a Baba in Yoruba land, and we take intellectualism, read so much about it, but we haven't really done our research and done a study. Okay, how does this affect people who have involved themselves? Are their lives any better? What are the benefits of it? You getting protection from what? By whom? Are there any, if I can say, side effects? Because you have to know all these things before anyone initiates you into anything. Because it is extremely dangerous. These things have altars and they are requirements. The interesting thing is sometimes you are not told of the requirements. You don't know. You are told after the fact, and it's too late.
Rabbi, may I add?
Madam Ajua, please do.
You have to remember that for our land to be conquered and our people to be put into slavery and to suffer abominably, these people who came to conquer us, they deliberately conquered our altars.
Yeah.
But they did not do it in one go. They did it for hundreds of years, and they came and corrupted our traditional values and made them theirs. Everything that we held dear to us, the way we handle the family system, they destroyed it and made popular the nuclear family. They perverted every good thing and they killed every good king, every good chief who stood up for the right way. They found a way to destroy them and take them out of the way. So the people who have remained are not our real leaders. They are the people who kowtowed to these foreigners. They are the people given them. The people who survived were the weak ones. So we have to study carefully so that we are able to tell the difference. And remember that from everything I am studying in this Shabbat class is that the leader of the home, the head of the home, is the one who leads his clan.
Yes.
So you have to observe and see the things that work for your family. You don't need to go and see no chief priest anywhere. The chief priest's role was not in the family.
Correct.
Those roles are in festivals,
Yes.
king-making,
Yes.
health and sickness, certain general rights, nothing to do with the immediate family. The immediate family traditions are dealt by the head of the home. And so we need to start bringing our children up with those traditions. Because I tell my kids, we are here, everybody wants to move out. Everybody wants to have their own apartment. What we need to do is to learn to live with each other. And making a plan to have your own home, judging a man based on him living with his mother as bad, those are too simplistic. Let's go further. Let's make a plan to live together. Let's make a plan to have 3-generation homes. Let's make a plan that will make us endure based on how our forefathers lived, not based on how modern society forces us to be. And when we start to do these things, then we can start introducing these rights. For example, your daughter gets of age and she has her menses. What are you doing? What is the little right you're doing in your home to exalt her as coming of age? What are you doing with your son to make him feel like he's growing up and his place in his home is going to be as the head of the family and as the strong man in the family?
Yes.
How are we reminding our husbands to lay hands on ourselves as wives and to anoint us and our children? How are we reminding, that many men don't remember these things, but we as women can say, oh, my dear, I would like you to do this coming Saturday. So can you prepare for it? I want you to anoint all of us, myself and my children. I cannot anoint you. I will not anoint you. So prepare yourself for it. How do you prepare everybody's favorite meal at a special time to do things? How, if you want there are ways to learn traditions. The mashed yam and a boiled egg for your daughter. Some people every day on your born day, if you say you're born on Monday, every Monday that particular child will eat a boiled egg and a mashed yam. Not because it tastes so good, but because it makes them know that that day they're special. So your mother will wake up extra early to do that little rite for you, and that's your breakfast every Monday. So if your children are all born on one day, yes, you can do it. If they're all born on different days, the others eat something else. So you celebrate your children. You celebrate each other. And so we are able to develop our own culture back from the bottom, not from the top. So when we're talking about going back to our roots, it's not going to look for a chief priest somewhere to do something for you. Because remember, the people remaining are the ones who gave it. And apart from that, in Ghana, I know the Presbyterian Church is doing a lot of research and master programs into our history and which part of them are actually biblical.
Yep.
So in the near future, you will be seeing these days, even among church traditional rites and even among Ghanaian church weddings, we are no longer doing white weddings.
Yep.
We are doing a traditional wedding with all the family, and whilst you're at the traditional wedding, the man and the woman, after being blessed by family, will sneak off to the court, sign it, or go to the church building, sign, and come back home to continue with their traditional wedding. So they're not doing white weddings anymore. We're wearing traditional clothes.
Yes.
We're doing our outdooring the way we're supposed to do it. You go put a pot outside to collect some dew, And some churches are respecting it. When I got married the first time, my mother refused to have me go live with my husband after the traditional marriage. So I called her pastor and I told the pastor's wife actually that my mother doesn't want me to live with my husband even though we are married traditionally. She wants us to marry in church first. And pastor's wife told me, no, you can go to your husband's house. So I packed my things and my mother was mad at me. I just said goodbye to her and I moved into my husband's house without signing at the court. These are decisions that people are making. This was 20 years ago. My daughter is now 22, so it was 23 years ago. So these are things people are practicing. Quietly, they're doing their thing. So we need to build it up from our homes. And they're nice customs. If you want your children to get married and you don't have access to somebody who would help you organize a traditional marriage, I'm sure Rabbi will be able to help you, teach you, show you the ropes. You know, I am trying to organize one for my brother right now, you know, and you just do it the best way you can, and with time we perfect it, you know. And so I want to encourage us that it's not that, you know, you can't go, but don't be afraid. What the real African traditional things are happening in our homes. Yes, they're happening in our homes. So it's very encouraging to see. Anybody who wants anything can just reach out. You know, you can always call a friend to be your go-between and the knocking and doing the traditional rites and things that I told my brother, if you need, as soon as you give me your word, I'll travel to Florida to the girl's parents and go and do a traditional knocking. And it only takes an hour or two.
Yep.
Just introduce ourselves, tell them our intents, and then see if they receive their gifts. If they receive our gifts, then we can continue with it. Those are the ways we go about things. You know, so I just want to tell you, we're doing the right thing, and it's very encouraging.
Awesome.
Sister Joy, I want to say thank you so much for that. I really appreciate when you speak. It just centers everything and makes everything clear, because there's a lot of stuff that I was thinking about, and as I'm starting to find out about my dad and everything and stuff, you just kind of solidified it for me, because when you said that the people, the kings and the chiefs that survived were the ones that essentially, in essence, kind of sold out. It's making a lot of sense for me as to why, and it has a more personal thing because of my dad and what happened to my dad and what I'm finding out. Because he wasn't one of the survivors eventually, because he wasn't having any of it. And so I just want to say thank you so much for saying that, because it's like a second confirmation of what went on. And it's amazing to hear you talk about what needs to happen. I mean, interesting enough, me and Kofi, we had a traditional wedding, and we also had the white wedding, so we had both, but we had the traditional wedding first. And we were insistent on having a traditional wedding at the time when it wasn't. There was like a almost like it wasn't necessary, innit, babes? It wasn't necessary. They felt like we was being a bit too much by doing it, and we were insistent on it. And now, when we reflect on it, we're so happy that we did do it. And it's just, you know, it's what, 16 years now that we did it, and more people are now doing it right now. But at the time when we wanted to do it, it was very almost kind of frowned upon. Like everybody thought it was a bit much, but we felt a real deep sense that we needed to do the traditional wedding, and we did it first, and then we did the white wedding 6 months or so later. So thank you so much for being who you are, Sister Joy. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your wisdom when you speak. Thank you.
Sister Joa, could you put your contact information in the chat, please? If you don't mind us calling you, please.
Rabbi, this is Marie.
I wanted to find out, do you believe that, or do you think that all the Christian religions and all the other religions that we find ourselves in as Israel, are those altars that's been set against us? Because I feel like that's what it is. That's what it is. I mean, since I came to this class, I learned so much, and I didn't know anything of what Sister Ajua was just talking about. I have no idea. And so for somebody like me with absolutely no background in any of the traditions of our forefathers, I'm very interested in finding out and learning. And I don't live in the city. I live very remote. And so how does someone like me, I guess I could come to you, Rabbi, but going back to the Christian religion thing, I'm thinking that, going back to when they stole us from the continent and they beat all of our traditions out of us, so that down to our time, we absolutely have nothing, well, or very little. I'm thinking maybe that's an altar that's been raised against us, because Christianity is so hard to get out of the fabric of our DNA, it seems. And when you, especially in our family, when we try to talk to our parents, they just completely reject everything. And so my son is 10, and I really want him to know that he comes from royalty, that he's a prince, and that he represents Yah in this earth, and he came for a special reason. And I want to empower him to stand straight and strong and be a leader, and that he should not cower, and he should demand respect when he speaks and when he moves in the earth because of who he is. I want to empower him with that, because I never got that. And so I want to learn everything that I can in order to do that. So where do I start, and can you mentor me, please?
Yes, I can share a lot of the traditions and cultures. I can recommend some books. We're still waiting. You're still aware for the 2 books to come out so that we can edit for the Marie. So I'm still working on that one. So that,
if I may,
yes,
I will have Samuel completed.
No, not that one. The one about the traditions. Not the Samuel one. The one about traditions. Remember the?
Oh,
yes.
we're waiting on that one. Okay.
Correct. Yes. So still working on that one. He almost has it completed. So that is going to be information packed, about the traditions and all of that. So yes, we can start talking about them. Actually, we can start talking about these starting from birth, marriage, birth, like Madam Ajua said, from birth, adolescence, because we honor that, marriage, childbirth, raising children, about death. We can talk about all these 5 things. So
I may say something. There are 2 things that I would like to encourage you to do. Look for his born day and make him the mashed potato and a boiled egg every day on his born day. He alone. You can do it for yourself and your husband on your own born days. And let him eat it alone, just by himself. And then the second thing you can do is start calling his father by his name. So if his name is John, you call the father John's father. So John Papa. Johnny's Papa, where are you? You refer to the father by the son's name. It makes the the son feel very proud. Those are two things I've been trying to do. It hasn't been easy, but you know, sometimes yes.
Can you explain to me what the significance of that is? What is the significance of the egg in the mashed potato?
You know, I don't know. That's all I know is our celebration food for puberty and for your day to celebrate your birth. I don't know the deep meaning. Maybe Rabbi would be able to help with that.
Yes, the eggs. Yeah, the eggs represent life. The eggs. So usually, in the past, you eat as many eggs. On your birthday, if you're 12, they boil 12 eggs for you. It's hard to eat 12 eggs though. But yeah, the eggs. The only thing, the egg, that whole egg is actually a chicken. So we eat that as life. And then the yam, I have to get back with the yam what it means. Because the twins, I'm a twin and we eat that a lot. So let me check from the book that I have here that talks about that, and then I'll respond very shortly.
Does it have to be yam?
Yes, it's yam that we use, yes.
Okay, hard for me to find here. Okay, I'll do that.
Rabbi?
Just use mashed potato.
Correct.
Just use mashed
Yes.
potato, Marie.
Mashed potato
Marie,
would qualify, I believe, for it, yes.
Marie, are you okay? Hello?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Most places you can find the yam powder, because even up here in the sticks where I live, I find it in the the island store. It may be a little expensive. You can also buy it on YouTube. That's where I got it from the first time.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's the same as the fresh yam, but you know, it's yam powder.
Right.
Brother Basil, I thought, Brother Basil, sorry, Jason. Brother Basil, can I just ask you? I thought it was a toe, like a toe rather than a yam.
A toe is made from yam.
I know, it's very different. Let me just say a ton of yeah. Sorry, I should speak in English. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so yam with palm oil to make a.
Yeah, to make it with the egg. But I thought it was let me just say a toe. Yeah.
Yeah, so
rather than.
Yeah, a toe is you're using yam for
the plantain one.
Oh, okay, no. That one is different. The plantain one is different.
You use plantain or you use yam for a top?
Yeah.
Yes. So for the purpose here, potatoes are just as good.
Okay. It's makes me use the plantain on the bois, as I prefer it with the yam.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it plantain or is it yam?
Rabbi. Oh, boy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can use either or.
Starch.
Yes, use either or, whatever you have.
You can use either one?
Yes.
Yeah. It's mostly yam because the plantain is a little sweet. And so you teach your children a sweet tooth. We don't want to do that. But the people can use plantain. The yam is not as sweet, so it's easier to, it's healthier to teach your children that. Just mound it in a little mound on the plate, because usually they make it round and then they stick the boiled egg in. Now, instead of the red oil, you put some butter. So it's just like the mashed potatoes, and then you stick a full boiled egg in. Some people sprinkle peanuts on it. Oh, yes, but that's what they call it.
Brother Marvin, can you mute your mic, please? It's having a bad echo on the YouTube channel.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Jason, go for it.
Oh yeah, Rabbi, I need to come out to Vegas. We need to come together so we can get this minhagim and these and this halacha together. We're gonna have to put these customs together so we can know what to do. I think that's the next best step.
No problem.
We gotta get some customs so that we know which way which way to go. And this is why this is a great segment for why there has to be a oral law. Do you see how we're all in different places and one can't get the sweet potatoes, one can't get the potatoes, the other one can. This is beautiful. I don't know if anybody else think of it this way, but this is just absolutely beautiful. We can come together and try to get the custom to line up so that it fits in every diaspora or where we're at. Beautiful. So, but yeah, we definitely need to get these customs down so we can be on one thing.
Hi, Rabbi.
Rabbi.
Madam Sonia.
So I wanted to jump in because I have to get off soon because my daughter is speaking and I have to go and support her. But two things. First of all, thank you, Sister Joy. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And it's so funny because we grew up eating all the, well, I grew up in the Caribbean. I grew up in St. Lucia. I went there when I was a baby. And so we eat a lot of yams and all this other stuff. And I've introduced it to my family here. You know, my husband's from Chicago, but, and we eat it and he loves it. So we eat that all the time. But I wanted to switch gears really quick. And I'm not sure if this is appropriate for YouTube or not, but I'm going to say it anyway. But a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine called, and I want to talk about portals. A friend of mine called and said her neighbor is terrified, and she sent her some pictures. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Ring light, the Ring alarm system, where they have cameras from Ring, the company. Yes. Ring. Yes. And so the lady was like, her neighbor was like, I'm so afraid. I don't know what's happening in my backyard at night. And now my grandbaby, when the grandbaby comes over, he's a little bit, he plays like he's playing with someone, and then he runs inside the house. So she sent me the pictures, and she showed the pictures like in the daytime, what the Ring light looks like, the camera, and then she showed the other one, and you can clearly see, for me, when I look at it, it looks like kind of like smoke, kind of clouds, but they're separated and stuff. So her neighbor has since left her home because she's afraid. And I wanted to talk about it last week when you were talking about the church and different things, because she's part of a church and she called the church and no one would come over. Not even the pastor. No one would come over. So when she called my friend said, well, the only thing I can tell you, because my friend has left the church too. She left the church about 1.5 years ago. She said, well, the only thing I can tell you is I can go call someone that's, you know, a spiritual teacher, you know, that kind of, not like a medium, but some type of spiritual teacher, whatever. And she said, you know, but you know, you do have to pay her. So she said, well, that's fine. I'm going to set up an appointment and stuff. And so the appointment is supposed to happen this coming up week, but she also sent the pictures to the spiritual leader, and the spiritual leader said, I'm saying spiritual leader. She Correct. Probably doesn't call herself a spiritual leader, but she said, well, I can see people, and it looks like lost souls, and we just need to create a portal so they can leave. And so I'm saying, like, the lady has literally left her home, but what kind of struck me about this whole thing is that she called her pat, and no one hasn't come over. She was like, I need help. I cannot sleep, and I feel that I think that they're in my home now. And this spiritual lady told her that, well, they're harmless, they're lost souls, and they're kind of mischievous. So they're kind of like they play or whatever, and they like your grandson. And so that's why but now the kid doesn't want to go to the backyard. Like I said, she's left her home now. She went to stay with her son, and she's terrified. But she can't even get help from her own spiritual leaders in the church. And so I was curious about this portal and lost souls. And I mean, I know we've talked about and we've studied about, you know, not reincarnation, but actually coming back as someone else, etc., with your work not being done. So can you like explain this portal thing to me? And do you believe that? But I mean, they sent me the pictures and I clearly see both images. And I was like, okay. But this spiritual leader said, she said, there's children, there's women. And so, yeah, I was a little bit, I just wanted to ask you about that because that really struck me.
Yeah, so portals are doorways, they are openings
Mm-hmm.
from the spiritual to the physical.
Mm-hmm.
Women are portals, actually. Women are portals. They are doorways for between the physical and then the spiritual. Everybody coming to this earth has to go through that portal. With the what is happening in the backyard, I don't think the pastors would come because prayer won't let it go. You have to sometimes help them transition on, or sometimes you have to. So basically, that is why we are asked to put something on our doorpost, the mezuzah. To prevent, but if the person is not Hebrew or the person does not understand, understand the reasons for the mezuzah, they will not know. Sometimes we open portals and we have these things. We give them residency. We give them the permission to stay. They may not be harmful. Some of them are harmful, but there are ways to get them out of there. You can sprinkle salt. If we are back home, they would have some rites that they would do to, ask them to leave. I can speak to you offline on some of what can be done to have these things not dwell in that atmosphere. But something is giving them legal rights to be there, though. They don't just show up. Something is giving them legal rights to be there. So that portal needs to be closed, and then they can.
You know, Rabbi, if I may add, when my mother-in-law passed, I kept seeing her. And one day I mentioned it to my sister-in-law, and she said she was experiencing the same thing. So when it was her 1-year anniversary, I knew my husband wasn't going to do anything. So I encouraged him. I said, let's all go to church and visit her. So we all went to church, and then we went to the cemetery to visit her. And when we were there, I prayed and I told her, you see, your sons are all here. Yep. They're fine. Your grandchildren are all here. They're fine. Go in peace.
Yes.
And that was it.
Yep.
That was the end. So sometimes you have to pray to figure out what kind of spirits those are.
Yes.
And then acknowledge them and encourage them to go in peace. Sometimes they need somebody to tell them they're just wondering and they're quite desperate.
Yep.
They can't transition. You say, go in peace and blessing. Everybody is fine here. It works.
Yep. I remember one time we're home, my uncle died. Very nice uncle. We all loved him. And I mean, literally, you could hear the kitchen door open and close. Like literally. And everybody was in the living room watching TV and we looked at each other. And my mom got up and walked to the kitchen and she acknowledged him. She said, Uncle Eddie, we are here, everybody is fine, the kids are here. And she said, Captain, that's my father, is not here. The head of the house is not here. He's not here. He's not here. And then it never happened again. She was telling him that we are okay, but I've got the kids here, so don't show up like that, just journey on, go in peace. You see, what we haven't been told is that when somebody passes, it's a journey. We just go to sleep after we put them in the grave. No. That is why in our culture, the woman would wear their mourner's garb for a while. And then she will do certain things. It helps that soul transition on. It's a difficult journey. We'll talk about all of that. Sometimes it's a difficult journey, and then sometimes these spirits need help transitioning on.
I have a question from YouTube. I'm gonna go ahead and post that on here.
Okay.
I posted it in the chat.
Rabbi, explain how we can recognize the altars of a nation and person. Also, does today's topic relate to whether Yeshua says about whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven? Yes, so how can we recognize the altars of nations? You cannot recognize it. People have private altars. But you see, I have to explain what altars look like today. And that is what I'm trying not to speak on it publicly. But you can erect altars, and those altars do speak for you in times of trouble. And they counter altars that have been raised against you or your family as well. And these are righteous altars. They're not anything crafty. So I just don't want to get into that topic in public. That's why I'm not saying too much about them. Let's see. Does today's topic relate to what Yeshua says about whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven? Correct. Yes. It depends. When we say bind, I don't know how we're doing the binding. Are we just speaking and saying, I bind you? Or are we doing something? Is it an act that we're doing, something that we're doing to portray the binding? But correct. Well, whatever we lose here, so we set it in motion and then the heavens respond to it. Whatever you let go would do you harm. Whatever you stop, the heavens will come to your aid and help it stop.
Rabbi.
Madam Susanette.
Hi. About the having the husband bless the children and all that tomorrow. What do you do if your husband doesn't believe in anything?
It doesn't matter. Still let him lay hands.
It doesn't matter?
Yeah, still let him lay hands.
Can you just write it out and pray that he would read what you write?
No, he can just say, I bless you. It's not the words, that is spoken. It's the intent behind it. Is the intent behind it. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Rabbi, it may be time for the end. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Okay.
Wink, wink.
Okay. So, YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. Some of these conversations, I do apologize. We like having it in private. And sometimes esoteric discussions are not done. Not sometimes, most of the times. Usually, such discussions are not done in public. It's private for those who want to really know it. So we'll end our YouTube feed and then maybe get into some details in private. If you want to have such discussions, we can schedule maybe a webinar, and those who are interested, when you come in and that is the topic and you sign up for it, yes, I can be free and speak whatever I want to speak. But if it wasn't planned and we're just speaking on it, we may step on people's toes, or people may not understand it because the level of spirituality is not there like those in the class. So yes, if you can join lectures, and you have access to all of these things, this depth. Okay. So thank you so much, YouTube, and